It is 4:15. We are going to start right on the dot. We will hear from an update on the organization and market compensation study. Oh, these words are killing me today. And so welcome Dr. Mutillo, Mr. McMotter, and our guests that are here. So Dr. Mutillo, I'll kick it over to you to get us started.
That's great. Thank you, Chair Swanson. I'll provide a brief introduction as well as introduce our guest and Mr. McOtter as well. But today, at the request of the board, we're here to present an update on the district's compensation study as well as the organizational study. These are two separate studies done by two different contractors. The organizational study is focused on central services staffing levels, and the compensation study includes positions in both central services and schools. Both studies are not yet finalized, but are nearing completion. So we know the board wanted an update during this budget development cycle, so we are here today to provide a fairly brief, high-level summary of some of the initial data and the findings. Just to reiterate, brief, high-level initial findings, waiting on the completion, which should happen soon. After today, I understand the plan is we will begin really using existing structures like the Finance Committee to dive deeper into the data as it does become finalized. We will start with the organizational study, if that's okay. And Nona Ullman from Improve will be presenting for her team. But before I turn it over to Nona, I do want to acknowledge and introduce Terrence McOtter. Terrence is our Senior Director for Salary and Information Systems. And a director on his team, Kelly Johnson, is sitting over there as well. May help answer some questions as we go along. But just a special thanks to Terrence and Kelly because they've really been working hard and directly with both our contractors on both of these studies to get them a lot of what they need so that they can do the work that we have them or contracted with them to do. So we will have an opportunity to hear directly from MGT, who is our compensation contractor, but that will be once they complete the study. So Ms. Ullman, if you're ready, I'll turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you so much, AJ. I'm just getting over a cold, so I luckily have my voice back, but hopefully you can hear me. So I'm Nona Ullman, the president of Improve LLC. I was back here 30 years ago for Dr. Jim Surratt, doing a very similar study. It was a full performance audit of all of central office staffing. I was a managing director there leading our K-12 practice. Since then, I've continued to work with over 50 educational agencies in 23 different states. My goal is to build management capacity of state and local education agencies, focusing on strategic planning, operational improvement, and use of technology. Currently doing an AI governance project for the Stark County School District in Nevada, rolling out AI governance for the state of Rhode Island. There's a lot of AI out there, and it can help improve productivity. So it's going to bring us into the work for today. Thank you very much, board, for having me here today, and for the district administration, who has been very helpful. We've been interviewing them. We'll describe what we've been doing, but it's been a very, it's a lovely district, and happy to be back. So I guess the agenda today is we'll briefly review our project team, the scope and objectives of what we did today, our approach and methodology, and a little bit about the high-level benchmarking and staffing data that we have so far, and answer questions. As AJ mentioned, it's a very preliminary review. We're still waiting on confirming some information from the division leaders, and then we'll be back to present a full report. As I mentioned, I am the project lead, and I focus as well in areas of technology, HR, finance, facilities, and operations and academics. Carrie Munkowitz, who would have liked to have been here today, is actually traveling with her husband in Europe, but she was our day-to-day project manager. She focused on academics, the schools, and communications, and then Monica Sanchez focused on the chief of staff area, facilities, and operations. I worked with Carrie at KPMG 30 years ago, and Monica 20 years ago started with the School District of Philadelphia. So you have like a very highly experienced team in operational efficiency reviews for school districts. In terms of our project scope and objectives, the key question we're here to ask is, are your central services operations staffed at levels to support efficiency and adequacy? We were particularly focused on the board priorities of operational effectiveness and achieving AIMS 13 through 18. We really use those AIMS as a guiding direction. Are you able to deliver the services that you need to with the staff that you have? We looked at staff over time over the past 5 years. We did an extensive review of industry standards and how your staffing levels and key positions compare to those as well. And we also looked at areas of improving organizational alignment. In terms of the scope, we looked at all central office staff. We used the data from Oracle. There's 2,882 staff in those 7 divisions as of 2026. As you can see, that amount is 14.4% of the total staff of 20,000. So it's a very small percentage of your total staff. Go to the next slide, AJ. What the centrally reported positions are, many people think it's people at central office and they don't know what they do. But really what central office does is they're there to support and guide the schools. All their work is dedicated for those causes. And a lot of times you think the people that are actually officially listed in central office are also those people working in schools. They aren't just spending their day all day in central office. So it's the special education related service providers or occupational therapy, physical therapy, coordinating teachers for Title I, instructional support technicians, your DLCs, the maintenance workers, the school bus drivers, the custodial managers. A lot of those people are listed as being at central office but actually spend most of their time in schools. In terms of our project approach and methodology, so phase 1 was project logistics and planning. We started kind of in the September, October area. And then we had a major kickoff really in November. And since that time, we've been collecting a lot of data, interviewing school staff, reaching out, looking at industry standards, really doing a lot of position mapping and reviewing the organizational charts against the Oracle staffing data, looking at ratio analyses, and then kind of trying to triangulate all of those data. And at this point, we had submitted a final information request in the context of draft chapters, and we're waiting to confirm the final data with the division leads before producing our draft report and then final report. In terms of our analysis approach, we looked at the Oracle system data as our authoritative source of data. It provides data for all staff that are currently have positions. It's not vacancy data, it's not budgeted positions, it's the actual filled positions is what we looked at. We looked at 5-year trends from 2020 to 2021 to 2026, and we compared workload drivers across that time. So looking at enrollment increases relative to staffing increases. As I mentioned, we did the benchmarking analysis, looked at the industry standards. We'll go over a few of those with you. In terms of managerial spans of control, we like the McKinsey archetype methodology, which looks at the number of people that are supervised to their supervisor, and depending on the complexity of the work, it can be lower or higher. So they have like a player role, coach role, which would be 1 to like 3 or 4 people, versus the coordinator role, which might be up to 20, and that's for more standardized work. What can you reasonably manage with the span of control, the number of people that report to you? In terms of the industry benchmark services, I'll just give you a minute to read this report, but for every one of the divisions, we used very reputable industry sources for the industry standards. So I'll just let you have a chance to look at those. So overall, what did we find? And again, this is preliminary, very preliminary findings. Let's go to the next slide. So as you can see, the first line is operating budget. We looked at these 5 districts. You are 14th or 15th largest school district in the nation, depending on which source you look at. And these other districts, Charlotte-Mecklenburg is the closest one in North Carolina, and then Dallas, Fairfax, Gwinnett, and Montgomery are also around that, 10 to 17 size. I know you guys, I've seen this in your budget books, so I know you're familiar with these districts. If you look at the total enrollment, they're around 160,000 to about 182,000. The operating budget per student, as you can see, you're significantly lower than everyone else, even lower than Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And then if you look at overall students per all staff, you're at 8 students per staff, which again is a much higher ratio, so more students per staff than everyone else. And usually staff is in the district, half of those are teachers. You also have your class sizes are on the higher end, 15 students per teacher versus, let's say, like a Montgomery or Fairfax of 13. So, you can see here that staff, you're getting a lot for your money in terms of the amount, of what you're spending, but it comes at a cost, when you spend, less per pupil. So let's go to the next slide. And some of it comes up, from your staff. So if you look at total enrollment, it's grown 3% over the last 5 years, and staff has only grown 2.3%. You can see the student to staff ratio. So overall, your staffing growth has lagged your enrollment growth. Go to the next slide. Overall, many of your departments are not staffed to industry standards. I provide some examples here. I think most people are aware there's a national bus driver shortage. You guys are no exception. But even given the shortage, your routes are still like 117 miles per route versus the industry standard of 70. The maintenance workers, the industry standard is 100,000 square feet per maintenance worker, you're 200,000. So like, and that continues across multiple trends. Like HR, you have a 0.5 person, so a half-time person for every 100 employees. If you run a company, you know that's not a lot. I mean, just think about it. Whereas the industry average is 1.5 to 2 FTEs per 100 employees. So in many, many areas, you are, staffed at half the levels of comparable districts. So I would say overall, you're comparable to, but in many respects, leaner than those of your peers. Next slide. So the next step is we compiled a list of draft findings. We still had some questions on information that we don't have. We are trying to compare apples to apples, so looking at contracts that, like, how many people are in contracts versus, just to make sure our ratios are correct. And so we're waiting for some final information on that. And we always need to meet with the division leaders to make sure we've captured their workloads accurately. We'd like to do some additional peer benchmarking once we've met with them and made sure these were the priority workload measures, and then hope to come back and finalize the report. So happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you for providing this, and we're going to dive into this because this is perfect timing as we just discussed our budget proposal. So we'll start with the vice chair, and then Mr. Haggerty, and then Dr. Joe.
Thank you for starting to lay this out. I'm very excited to see this report. You mentioned you were going pretty quick, so you mentioned some of the standards, the industry standards. You mentioned the methodology. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Is it the McKinsey?
Architect, yeah.
Architect. Is all of that going to be spelled out in plain language in the final report? Because this is a report that when it comes out, I want everybody in Wake County to be able to see. We want to be able to hand it to our, colleagues or our counterparts in Wake County government, the North Carolina General Assembly. I want to mail them copies of this so they understand how needy we are. Thank you for doing this work. I don't really have a question. I'm just really excited to learn more. Do you have a time frame of when you'll be back?
I think the next month or so, we should be able to, next 2 months tops, be able to finalize the report.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I don't have any real questions. I'm just very excited about this. This is good governance right here.
Yeah, it's very detailed, so it goes into a lot of detail. I have a good executive summary for you, but it's so lengthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'll echo Mr. Hershey's remarks. We've been looking for information like this for some time. I like the approach. I like how it's put together. I'm hoping you'll have, all of these, broken down by department and kind of like take a deeper dive than what we've got here. Is that right?
Yeah, very much deeper dive.
Okay. And so just to make sure I understand, when we talk about instructional, instructional services within like our entire district, that's a lot. What does that encompass? I'm looking at slide 15 when you're talking about, many departments are not staffed to industry standards.
School counselors, we're looking at psychologists, like special ed, and all of the support folks, the guidance counselor. I'm sure our Director of Academic Services can provide the scope of who those people are.
So this is all of our divisions of student support services, special education, instructional services, and we have the digital learning and a lot of it as well.
Okay, so that's all included within that. All right, thank you. And then one last thing, and it's just a little thing, but I'm curious, when we go up to the top and it's you're presenting the project scope, you identify in the organizational by division, superintendent's offices and board of education with 17 FTE. Can you identify who those employees are or what
Yeah,
positions
so
those
the
are?
line are you guys, so 9. Right, and then the others are in the superintendent's office.
Okay. I was thinking 17 seemed like a little much, but I wasn't counting on us.
I didn't
We weren't sure where to put you. We weren't sure where to put you.
This suggestion could be maybe a separate line as a governing entity, so it does not include us into the organization, or maybe that's food for thought.
Be a little bit leaner.
Well, that's what we want to see.
I was just trying to get the definition, so I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank
You
you.
don't want anybody to think you all work for me, it's the other way around.
We were over here counting, I was like, the superintendent, Ms. Allen, Ms. Fields,
Susanna.
Susanna, Ms. Well, I was like, so where are we getting these others? So,
Internal audits in there too.
Internal audits,
That's right.
Dr. Joe?
Thank you for this. I'm also enthusiastic, but I just very bad cold right now. Just off the top of your head, for the departments and staffing compared to industry standards, were any departments above industry standards?
There were a few areas that were higher, within departments, not departments overall, and that might be an area to reallocate people. We're still waiting for feedback from the division, so I want to make sure that's right, but yeah, there were a few position types where you might be able to reallocate from one position type to another.
Okay.
And there were some that were lean, like financial services is lean. I think it was 3 people for every $100 million of budget, and the industry standard is like 3 to 8. So like, they're adequate but lean.
Yeah.
Communications was 1 FTE for every 17 schools. Like, I worked at Greenwich Public Schools, we had 15 schools, and we had 1 communication. She was really busy. So like 1 to 17, it's lean, but it's doable.
Follow up, Dr. Joe? Okay. So, Ms. Rice, Dr. Ng, did you have? Yeah. Okay. Ms. Rice and then Dr. Ng.
So I don't even know if we can answer this question, but you know I'm going to slide 13. We have a $2.23 billion budget. Charlotte Mecklenburg, $2.2 billion budget. 2.03, whatever, billion-dollar budget, whatever, right? Okay. Are we saying their funding source, is that coming from their county? I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, it would be like our budget, state, local, and federal. We'd have to go back and look at what portion of that is state funding, which is going to be based on ADM. They will certainly get, I would imagine, a higher amount for federal programs like Title I, because they have a much higher free reduced lunch rate than we do. And then I think that remaining portion would be the local funding. And then at that point, we can compare what our local per pupil amount is versus theirs. And I don't know what theirs is. I would imagine it's probably higher than ours. But ultimately, we've got 21,000 more students and not much more funding.
Right, and I'm looking, and then it just, for me, it just saddens me to see the students per staff, and then we're getting ready to increase it just because of the conversation that we just talked about, and I'll just continue to carry that conversation again about embedding wellness into this district to help them manage what now data is telling us is happening. And if we don't make that a priority, I don't know what that's going to look like when it concerns staff if we don't take that into, make it a major priority of figuring out what simple things we can do to increase morale, to uplift staff well-being, and ways to help students cope with having more students in class with less attention where needed, and for staff to manage all these different styles of learning with minimum money. So I'll continue to uplift priority 3.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the information. And it's more kind of a comment and also kind of going along with Ms. Rice. I mean, we are working relatively leaner than other school systems, and in some ways maybe they can learn from us in terms of how to be more efficient, right? But at the same time, what can we do as a way to help our staff be more, effective, maybe, utilizing AI in some ways that can, not all the positions will be able to utilize AI, but certainly, some of them can utilize AI to help them streamline some of their workload. And, so yeah, I think it's important to think about, in the setting that we are in, what can we do differently?
Just to build on that point, according to McKinsey, they believe AI can achieve 30% productivity improvement. So to your point, it could help alleviate, some of the burden, but definitely not enough.
Will your report make recommendations on, or comparisons and/or recommendations on how our organization is structured?
Yes.
I just wanted to follow up and say kudos to Dr. Matillo and team and staff for getting this report done. I know I've been asking for it, I know since I've been on the board for the last couple of years, and doing it and at least bringing us a good high-level overview of what to expect. That I like data. So thank you. Good job.
Are there any other questions? Coffin?
If you wouldn't mind going back to slide 7 for a minute, and you kind of went through that super fast. If you can just kind of slow that back down a little bit and kind of go over, you gave us some numbers, and I'm not sure, was that on slide 7 that you gave us the numbers, the breakdown? You gave us some
That's 6.
examples of how we compared.
That was one of the second to last slide.
Okay.
This slide 13 with the comparison.
Or one more.
Oh, sorry.
That one.
Okay.
Well, no, not the dollar amount. You were talking about, you were giving, unless I heard you wrong, I thought on slide 7, when you went over some of these roles, you were saying as compared to some of your other peers.
That was this one is that people who were reported central office actually spend most of their day in schools, even though they're reported as central office folks. And these are examples of those positions. The second to last slide is the one where I was referring to the industry standard benchmarks. The industry standard for maintenance workers is 100,000 square feet per maintenance worker. You guys are 200,000. So that's where I'm not sure if is that what you mean for the...
Yeah, no, I thought as I was writing something, I was trying to catch up and write at the same time, and I just thought you had given us some comparison to some of our peers in how we rate with either a shortfall or over on some of these roles. I mean, we all know that we're short on bus drivers, we're short on custodial managers, all of these things that are listed here. We've been talking about them for...
Slide 15, right? Because she was talking about the miles per bus route, and she talked about, gave a few numbers on this one. That looks a lot like that slide 7.
Yes, I'm sorry. You are right.
Slide 15.
We're still waiting to confirm data, so that's why we didn't want to put it down. But
Okay.
Area superintendents each have around 22 schools. And just think about, you have 20 days in a month, and you can't even visit, if you spend every day in a half-day visit, and you get to each of them once in 1 month, and maybe 2 others in the afternoons, and that's not all the other work you have to do. It's just, you just look at the data and see that it's not, you don't have enough people to potentially deliver on the areas that you have. And you have to take into account, how many principals are new versus, and how many schools are in distress, because that will increase the workload. But we took the standard industry, and then we looked at other contextual factors.
Okay. So you're going to give it in the final report that you give us, is going to kind of break it down so that we can see
Yes.
how. All right, thank you. And then my only other question is on slide 14, and this may not be necessarily for improve for that, but when we're looking at these numbers, it gives us a chart. Well, first, I think 2025 to 2026, we weren't at 162, we were at 160, right?
Yeah, but around 160, 161, that probably comes from what DPI would thought would have been our numbers, but our actual count is a little under that. So you're correct.
165.10, I think. So we were at, instead of it being like 3% increase, it's actually more like 1.75.
that's the difference, yeah.
Okay, and then
We compared it to 2021, 22.
right,
Five-year change.
yeah. So that's what I was
Okay, great.
referring to, so it's not quite as high as 3. My question, because I know that this has come up in many conversations that I had, is and this may come in your report and explain where all of this is, but I'm trying to see the increase between our budget from 2021 to 22 to what we have now, looking at the 1.75% increase in students with the amount of funds that we spent in our budget. And I'm not sure if it's going to come back in our report, but I'm just curious, is it a lot more roles that we have added? Because it's a pretty big difference in budget from 21 to 25, and it's only 1.75 of our increase in students.
Ms. Kaufman, can you help me understand how you got your numbers? I'm trying to calculate.
So when I
the math
look
here.
back at our prior budgets, right, it said that we had 160,510 students.
I think that might be PMI too, not total enrollment. But we have to check.
Okay. That's what I pulled out of one of our budget books.
Which year?
Yeah, but
25 to 26.
Was that this?
I'm sorry, nope. Let me take that back. That is in this year's budget, saying 25, 26 to 27. On,
Do we know if the 162 is total enrollment or max 2?
I understand it's total enrollment, but because the numbers we've been given, so we will go back and check them.
The total enrollment would be larger than max 2.
yeah, but that's not where I saw it, but yeah, that's what's in our current book, the current budget that we have right now.
So could you ask the question one more time? 'Cause I know it's about.
So I'm just, is the report going to show, because we have a significant amount, and the majority of where our funds go in our budget is towards staff. So we're going to get a breakdown of where the difference is. Because our budget from 21, 22 was way different from what it is now. Like
Total staff?
the total budget. So I'm just trying to see if we're increasing our budget from 21.
New schools opening, lots of them.
Yeah,
Right. So
I know, like,
wanna know if that's
Salary going up, mandated salary going up from
equal,
the
like,
state.
number of roles and stuff like that. Is that going to be broken down in the report, or is that just going to be whoever's in central office, and we'll have to break that down?
We're mainly looking at central office. We can look at that data as well.
Okay.
I think I'm just having a hard time kind of understanding, and maybe you bring that, I'm just not able to pick up what you're putting down. And that's maybe just a me thing.
Yeah, what I would say, if you're talking about the increase in the budget from one year to the next, then a lot of that is going to be associated with salary increases, benefits that go up, other costs of doing the exact same work that increase. Obviously, I think we probably, since that time, opened 7, maybe 8 additional schools.
And we had ESSER
Inflation.
dollars that
Absolutely.
was there for 21, 22, 23, 24.
$500 million in ESSER
We've
funding.
raised bus driver
Yeah.
pay, CNS
Yeah,
pay.
so,
There's some significant compensation increases.
And a lot of that is, you can look at the Wake government, what they've given us over the last 5 years, which has been a significant amount of money.
Yeah, so I was just asking, is this report strictly just to the dollars that are being spent in central office, or comparing it to the whole, so we see the differences?
We're mainly looking just at staffing levels, like the
Yeah.
number of staff.
Organizational study. It's not-
We're not doing the compensation side.
Compensation's the other.
that's the next
Yeah.
one.
And we can definitely, before the final report is issued, verify numbers and make sure we're all aligned on the student enrollment and such.
Okay,
Do you have additional follow-up, Ms. Kaufman?
no, thank you.
Ms. Evans?
Thank you. So in the final report, if it's possible to make the point, I don't know how to, anyway, we need to understand, the public needs to understand that Fairfax, Montgomery County, some of those other states are funded very differently. I think it's different to look at us compared to Charlotte or Guilford because we are sharing in the same pain at being ranked 50th in funding level in the state of North Carolina, last in the U.S. Montgomery County, Fairfax County, they don't have that experience, and you know, so I think that's a very essential point that needs to be made somewhere in the report. So, and that may be the plan already, but if not, please, yeah, yeah.
Dr.
Yeah, so to go along with that question, I'm just wondering, which among those, that column of schools, peers, have taxing authority? Yeah, that makes a big difference, right?
Yeah. May I?
Sure.
I don't mean to imply that we shouldn't compare ourselves to these comparable sized districts. It's just that that is a critical detail for people to understand is how different the funding structures are in different states. So I appreciate that it's here. I'm not implying in any way we shouldn't look at them. Just, you have to have that added layer of understanding. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we add that. I think what we tried to balance was we just don't have a ton of peers in our state, so we wanted to try to find some
Yeah.
larger peers within state, but then also
I agree.
allowed. So yeah,
I agree. Yep.
Are there any additional questions as relates to the organizational and staffing stuff? And that, as Dr. Mutillo indicated, and even Mr. Nieder indicated, the full report will be broken down and be lifted up in the Budget and Finance Committee meetings in the forthcoming months, once we get through the budget, to take a deeper dive and to really tease out the data and let the data tell the story for WCPSS. So thank you for giving us this high-level summary, and looking forward to reading and taking a deep dive and engaging in some conversations with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you to the staff for doing an amazing job with the data.
Thank you. We're going to turn over to Terrence. He's going to go through an overview of the market study now. Same thing, high-level overview.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Terrence McCotter, Senior Director for Salary Information Systems. Greetings to you all. Thank you for this time. We conducted, as you know, the compensation study as well, and it was simultaneously occurring. And I wanted to go over, as staff, some of the initial findings that we have worked with. But before that, we want to give kudos to MGT. That was a contractor that we worked with for this compensation study. MGT has some experience working with K-12, public sector, government. They also have experience working with large employee groups as well. So they've been able to jump in and kind of have an understanding of the magnitude of our district when it comes to making these types of decisions and working through compensation. Per our discussion with MGT, we're now able to share this update and give you a status of the study. While the report is not quite final, we are providing the board and just you all an update of where things stand and some of those findings. And that is our goal. So our outcomes, we would like for this to show you that, you know, what methodology we use for our survey, and then also a comparison as far as wages and salaries and how we collected that data. And then we will, this afternoon, note some strengths and concerns, and then also provide the next steps. And the main goal was to, again, review the salary and wage data. We did select some comparable school districts. We looked at Wake County government, and we also reached out to private sector, some private sector, and I'll give you a little bit more context around that as well. And we wanted to explore market competitiveness of Wake County for central services and school-based benchmark positions. We also wanted to look at the recommendations that may come from MGT for a compensation plan that is internally equitable, but also externally competitive and informed by the key findings from the study. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into some of this information. First, I wanted to highlight that in order to do the study, we were to work with MGT on different positions that we would include in the study used for comparison. If you look at the screen or at your laptop, we selected these certified positions. And out of all the positions that we have in our district, we have upwards of hundreds of positions. In our contract with NGT, we were to select and narrow down to 56 positions. So on these next two slides, you'll see how we narrow down. This is our certified group. So it includes teachers, special ed, counselors, principals, audiologists, speech language pathologists, psychologists, and our OT and PT group. And so that was certified. And then on the classified side, I won't read all of these, but in that makeup of 56, these are the classified positions that we looked at in the study along with MGT. And what we wanted to do was go across all grades, from grade 17 to grade 30. And some of the intentionality behind narrowing down to 56 was looking at not just central service or school, but both. So we wanted to make sure we had positions such as bookkeeper and data manager, which are in the schools, but also our craftsmen, our technical specialists, as well as in the technology department. So in narrowing down from a couple hundred positions that we have in total to 56, we wanted to make sure we covered a wide range, a diverse range of position groups that covered, and also look at, what position groups are larger, or what position groups are more likely to be comparable to other positions in different districts. So we wanted the data to be reliable and to have get great feedback from other districts. So the ones in bold, you'll see are, as noted at the bottom, those are what we consider benchmark positions. So of the 56 positions, we looked at 28, and they're referred to as benchmark positions. So the 28 positions that are in bold on this screen are positions in which we call a custom market survey. MGT used these positions in bold in order to look at comparable peer districts, some local, and I'll go into that in the next slide, but some local and some out of state, as well as Wake County government, and then also private sector company as well. So we wanted to do a custom market survey with those 28 benchmark positions. And that gave us more regional data, more data specific to the actual salaries of those comparable organizations. All of the certified positions that you saw on the screen were included in the benchmarking. So they're part of the 28, and in addition to the ones in bold on the screen. And I will say that all of these positions, the 56, we were analyzed using the CompAnalystSalary.com tool that, you have a question?
I did, before we went to the next slide, if you could give a analysis or a high-level summary of what the salaries are for those grades from grade 17 to grade 30, just the range, if you have that information.
Yeah, sure. So we,
I can pull it right here. Yeah, so our grade 17, for example, would start at $17.75 an hour, which is about, for a 12-month employee, just shy of $37,000. And then going up to grade 30, would start at $25.45 an hour, which is about, for a 12-month employee, just shy of $53,000. And then with experience, could go up to just shy of $78,000.
Thank you.
So as I was sharing, the 56 positions were analyzed using the CompAnalyst tool that NGT uses to look at regional location. And they have staff that analyzes data and it's pooled monthly. And what the CompAnalyst data does, it allows you to pick a niche. So what was used by NGT was positions in Raleigh-Durham region, only education industry organizations. They looked at employee groups of 7,500 to 15,000, and the data was pulled for our report here from November 2025. And that's a longer progression of working with NGT. I will say that it is updated monthly, but we had to use a point in time in order to do this work. So all 56 positions were entered into the CompAnalyst tool in order to give us comparisons of the data of the 50th percentile of salary ranges, minimum and maximum. And I'll go into that. Now, as I've shared, the 28 benchmark positions, Those are the ones in which we use the custom market survey, in which MGT reached out directly to those organizations to get information on their salaries. And those are listed on the left. So the districts we use, Chapel Hill Carrboro, Charlotte Mecklenburg, Durham Public Schools, Fairfax, Guilford, Gwinnett, Johnson, and Wake County Government. We did look at, let me share with you. We did look at some others that did not respond. Cumberland did not respond. Newcomb, the company, did not respond. Just to name a couple. So out of the 10 or so that we reached out to, we did have these that responded. So per NGT, as they've shared with us, this is a good response of salary information that have this many districts and Wake County government provide information to us.
Yeah, I was concerned with some of the non-responses, but they indicated that our survey response rate was actually strong compared to what they typically see, so that was good.
One addition of the private sector was Red Hat. We did reach out to Red Hat. We did not get a response there. And as you may expect, private sector organizations are not as responsive when it comes to salary information. That's a little bit more held to the chest than what a public sector would do. So we did understand that they were not surprised that we weren't able to get as much from private sector. All right. So on this slide, just some initial findings from MGT. We wanted to go into what we were seeing in the data from collecting the salary information. And so what we saw initially is that Wake County Public Schools is not behind the market across the board. However, compression is a recurring pattern that we see. So in our compensation structures, what happens is we may have employee groups where minimum salaries, their entry point, are closer to the market, but as years go on, this weakens retention value because we fall off maybe towards 8 or 10 years in which an employee is here. So whereas we may be competitive in getting staff and hiring staff here, as they become veterans, the market, we fall behind. And that happens quite often. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. So,
Can I just go back to the first bullet real quick? Give you a quick breath. So I did want to hit the second part of that bullet where initial findings maybe we're not uniformly behind the market, but what they're finding is there is this issue of a concentration of gaps in roles that are hard to recruit for and hard to retain. So an explanation they gave, for example, is it may not just be a plumber that's below market, it's all of those trades in general that may be below market. So the final report will kind of tease that out and show where sort of clusters of positions that might be below the market, and then even where we're maybe more comparable with the market as a starting place. Over time, we don't grow with years of experience with folks. And, we've talked for several years, the board has about compression at some of these, both within the bands and within the different policies or salaries themselves. So, thanks,
yep. So because we lose ground with those comparable agencies, like I said, when employees hit 8 to 10 years, that's when they're able to maybe have competition and maybe find something elsewhere. So we want to look at that as we move forward. And this did appear to hold true among certified positions as well as instructional support roles and central services positions as well. In addition to that, one thing specifically noted by NGT was that when they looked at the Wake County government positions and they did those comparisons, they saw that what we just talked about with the compression was especially visible in financial roles, skilled technical and facilities positions, and also leadership roles as well, in which it was noted. I will note from here that the pressure from the private sector is the most pronounced in skilled trades, and facilities roles, our IT roles, our technology services roles, but as well, and also our professional and technical roles as well, like administrative jobs, front office jobs in schools, accountants in our finance department. So a lot of those, we face that private sector pressure of trying to compete when it comes to salaries. The trend was most glaring when you look at the comp analyst data. As that came back, it was most glaring because it looked at that overall region of Raleigh-Durham. You can see those discrepancies. And I will also note in the last bullet, NGT did not formally study our benefits package and plan. However, they wanted to note and continue to note that it is something to consider when it comes to maintaining competitiveness. Our salaries may trail our peers for many roles, but we also want to make sure we continue to look at the value of our benefits and keep that in the conversation. So that is something that was noted. Just some areas of strength, and just providing some examples. I will note that this is not all of the findings, these are some examples. So if you look at the first bullet, some of these are noted as areas of strength because the salaries in those roles are closer to the market and they help Wake County Public Schools remain competitive for essential operational staffing. And that would be like your custodians, your IA, your data managers, some CNS work roles are closer to the market. However, as we noted before, this is an entry point. So they went wild, whereas they may enter and have a competitive salary again as the years go on. That's where we have those concerns of the depression or falling behind the market.
And I'd add on that one too, you know, closer to market doesn't mean we're where we need to be or we're exceeding where we are for these roles, right? It's just they have to find, you know, they're going to look for some relative areas of strength. And you know, I don't want to leave the table thinking, oh, we're good with custodians, IAs, data managers. We don't look at their compensation. It's just when they looked at everything together, that was a more relative area of strength. And to Terrence's point, you know, at the entry level, but still, we know our scales don't grow like the market.
And this, you know, while this is noted as an area of strength, it does not always translate to long-term retention. We wanted to note that as well, as we see that, you know, we lose that ground. And so on slide 9, these are where there were some noted areas of concern regarding salary. And again, these are just some examples, and not all of the cases. But the first bullet notes that skilled trade and technical specialist roles are especially vulnerable due to the salary discrepancies. And this includes like our master craftsmen in HVAC, the work with the chillers, all of those roles that are very specialized. They're very vulnerable because we compete directly with county government, you know, especially private sector. And many times trade and technical workers have other options for roles in those industries. So that was definitely noted as an area of concern. Also, one of the widest gaps are the principals in other leadership roles such as APs. They show some of the largest gaps relative to similar roles in other districts. So where salaries of our principals on our salary schedule over time have fallen behind many of the districts that we're using our comparison. So that was noted. And then this was noted a little bit earlier, but our finance, budget, and senior administrative roles are foundational to the organization, but yet they are also an area of concern because they do not compare favorably to other public sector matches, including with county government. So this leads to the risk of turnover and operational instability if not addressed. So regardless of when any changes are implemented, one of the notes from the areas of concern is to ensure that we continue to have regular maintenance of our salary schedules and ensure that we continue to review this on a frequent basis. And then next steps, just briefly, so our next steps are to finalize the study report and working with MGT. We want to make sure that's finalized, and this will be shared in the coming weeks. And then also we want to, as a team and working with you all in our committee meetings, look at the compensation recommendations that are presented from MGT and review those in those committee meetings and use that to inform some of the decision makings and also determine if there's any potential adjustments to compensation and then where and how that will be funded. And also, separately, we want to continue to work with MGT on just deeper analysis to ensure that whatever pressure points we may feel as a district when it comes to compensation, that we refine those and we continue to keep an eye on those findings. So in closing, this study gives us a clear understanding of where the pressure points are and just the existence of pressure points. And when we compare our compensation for certain positions to peer agencies, as well as other areas of the market, the initial results of the study underscore the need to address salary compression issues in certain roles to improve our ability to retain valuable employees with higher levels of experience. The results also confirm that we are not as competitive as we need to be in the compensation we offer for critical positions in skilled trades such as master craftsmen. And finally, these results highlight why targeted strategic adjustments and a regular review of our compensation structures matter if we are to recruit and retain a high-quality staff. I appreciate the time. We'll open for questions.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank Terrence and Kelly for really working with MGT. You know, while they are our consultants and do the work, they spend a lot of time getting them the data that they need. And we will have MGT come. I think we get one visit from them, so we wanted to make sure that their one visit was when the report was finalized. So again, I appreciate Terrence for working with them to try to get some just initial information. Again, this is very initial. They'll have a detailed report as well that they'll be able to present and come out. And I just, after we just sat in the budget discussions, we know this is not the moment to bring forth compensation increases, but I think we are getting the report at a good time so that for future budget development cycles, if there is an ability, we'll have the data that we need to make informed decisions. So happy to answer any questions that we have.
I just want to thank you all for the work that went into this and juggling multiple things, and so thank you for your energy and time into this. I know that this is not an easy discussion given to what you just referenced, Dr. Mutillo, but it's also important for the public to understand where the competition lies. And if we want to make sure that our buildings are upkept and that our maintenance and operation is moving the way it should, we have to see where the competition is. So I saw Vice Chair Hershey is having the two H's sit beside each other.
I mean, I purposely try to dress differently than this guy so we don't get confused.
I saw that. So we'll start with Mr. Hagerty and then Vice Chair Hershey.
Thank you. I really appreciate all the work and everything that's gone into this report. I know it's one that we've all been waiting for quite some time. And I want to make sure we can maximize the utility of the report and the work that we do. And so to repeat a point that Mr. Hershey had made about the previous report, I think the presentation of the report and the language in it is going to be important. If we look at like slide 4 and slide 5, we see the report covers a lot of different positions. And if we look at each of those positions across different experience levels, compared to different peer groups and table after table after table, that's going to be an extensive amount of valuable data. But what's going to be more valuable to us and to the public, to our colleagues, to counterparts in county government, is if there's analysis that goes along with it, not simply the reporting of the data, but what does this mean, right? So where they can find trends, hey, we have found that, and you pulled this out in some of the slides, some of those big picture things, that for bus drivers, even though there's a national shortage, we're still falling behind market. Or where there's compression issues, you could show, just to understand, if you only look at that top line, our entry-level teachers at this level might be making a competitive salary, but then 5-10 years down, there's a real problem that needs to be addressed. I'm just pulling some observations just pulled out of this one, but just my big point is that I'd like to make sure that the report we get from the consultants has some analysis and it's not just tables of raw data, so that we can all be on the same page. Thank you.
Yeah, to Mr. Hagerty's point is making this easy to digest for the public. That people who don't live in this world can see, they're going to see that we're super lean organizationally, generally speaking, that we would like to be able to pay people more. So all the false narratives that have been out there about we're bloated, we're top heavy, we're paying too much, this and that, if people are looking at it objectively and reading, then all of that goes away. So that's really important. I'm really hoping, and you don't really have to answer this now, but I'm really hoping that staff is finding these reports really valuable and will. I hope it's something that, obviously as a board we're going to use, and I'm hoping that staff really is embracing these and getting the message out there. I don't actually have any questions. Nice job. Looking forward to seeing the specifics of it, and sending it again to, you know, I say send it to Wake County government, not to do anything, but just to let them know, because they have the information that we have. It's a great thing for them, and also to let Jones Street know, and to continue to let them know, and send this with the organizational report to, you know, all of those people down there, that this is what they're doing to public education.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, not seeing any, looking forward to these ongoing discussions, and thank you for presenting this to us. And I think I just want to echo, and you know, I think this is going to be out there for folks to digest. It's going to be up to them to figure out if they want to utilize or keep lifting up those narratives. And so it's our job to, what I used to say in the classroom, to lead the horses to the water, but you can't necessarily make them drink the water. And so thank you all. And with that, Dr. Taylor.
No, I just appreciate the board's feedback and certainly the work that has gone into both of these studies, and I agree that this is the information that we want our public to have. And I'll just add to your comment about my grandmother told me a long time ago, you lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so our trick is to salt the yips along the way. So they'll be Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think I'm 2 for 2 for these analogies today, so I don't know what I'm going to be next meeting, because, you know, it might be a little jacked up. But with that, I will entertain a motion to consider, to go into closed session for the reasons stated on the agenda. Thank you for that reminder.
Motion.
It's a motion by Vice Chair Hershey, seconded by Ms. Rice. All those in favor of returning to closed session, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Opposed, same signs. The ayes have it. We're in closed session.